Well, welcome back. I'm David. I'm a licensed marriage, family, child therapist, and today I'm going to be talking about continuing on breakups, but I'm going to explore the question, how do you know when a relationship is over? I've been asked that a lot of times. There's no magic date, no date on a calendar. You don't know the number of weeks or months or even years. So it's very complicated. So stay with me. After a breakup, the emotional triggers seem endless. Every restaurant, all those special places that you attended together, every song, seeing mutual friends, those secret romantic places that nobody knew about. All this reminds you of the relationship that you once had. During those quiet moments when work and distractions stop, your mind will drift back to that person. You're still waiting for the text message. You imagine the phone call that begins with, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Can we talk? Part of you know it's over. You know it's over, but another part believes that if you could just understand what happened, then somehow you could finally move on. I tell my clients this a lot is like you really have to understand before you can make any change. Um, there was There's also this sense there wasn't huge arguments or conflicts. There wasn't a real obvious betrayal. That explains why something that felt so deep and beautiful came to an end. Your heart struggles to make sense of it. You imagine that there's got to be some kind of cosmic connection. You wonder if they can somehow feel your thoughts. Maybe they really do know how much you love them. Maybe they are doing their own inner work. And once they heal, they'll realize what they lost and come running back. Many people tell themselves, and but our relationship was different. We were more connected, more attuned. We understood each other in ways that others don't. The heartbreak is remarkably human. The feelings are not unique. The longing is not unique. The hope is not unique. The illusion is that time will somehow turn them around. Uh, Yet often while we're trying to replay these memories and waiting for answers, they are beginning to they are moving on, placing the relationship as cherished memories or fond memories, and they're moving on, like I said, moving forward in their lives. Now, take the case of Jason. You would think Jason would know the relationship is over. They had been in a 2-year relationship. She ended it with abruptly with an email. She cut him off social media, never responded to text, phone calls, or emails, avoided him in public places. But still, he just couldn't move on. He still felt totally crushed and didn't understand what was going on. But he did have some relief when he found out that she was neurodivergent, and sometimes that accounts for a lack of empathy or uh, that person may be wanting to communicate intense thoughts and feelings through an email or a text. So, how do you know when it is really over? I think it's very complicated. There's no date on a calendar, no magic number of months, but the people that I do talk to tell me something interesting. They'll say things like the anxiety begins to loosen its grip. The sinking feeling in the stomach isn't there every morning. Sleep becomes less interrupted. Dreams come less often. The fear of running into them becomes manageable. You stop checking your phone every hour. You reach out to your friend. You somehow find yourself laughing unexpectedly. You begin to feel more than half alive. The places that you once visited together no longer bring panic. Instead, they bring a smile. Not because the memories disappeared, but because they became part of your story rather than a wound you constantly reopened. And the anger and resentment fades. You stop questioning whether you loved wholeheartedly. You know that you did. You gave everything you had. You loved sincerely, and that was enough. And the people around you no longer make you feel foolish for loving so deeply. They offer compassion instead of criticism. They help you see not only the pain, but the lessons and unexpected gifts that came from loving someone. And gradually you begin asking a new question. Now, how do I get back? But what will bring joy and meaning into my life again? You begin. So what happens is you begin rediscovering parts of yourself that were never lost. Your spiritual life, nature, service, family, friendships, health, work, purpose, simple pleasures. And perhaps this is one of the greatest signs of healing is no longer need another person to return to in order to feel whole. You carry gratitude, you have compassion for yourself, and you believe that this hope is going to return. You're going to believe that just moving on, that it doesn't mean that you're going to have less in your life. You're going to have more. It means that no love is ever going to stop you from living again. So, I think you need to give yourself a break because, I've talked to a lot of people about breakups, especially more here in the last few months. And, some tell me it takes years to move through a breakup. It runs deep, like I've been saying. So give yourself a break, give yourself a hug, and until next time.